this is technically my week, I guess. Um, Dude, Monster Hunter Stories 2 is like the best. It's like one of the best JRPGs I've played in years. It's
Damn.
absolutely fucking incredible.
Wow.
Uh, your mileage will obviously vary depending on your personal adoration for Monster Hunter, because there's a significant amount of like, oh man, it's that thing that I like that you
Hmm.
would get in like any other Digimon or Pokemon or
Did you
what
finish
have
one?
you. No, they're
Okay.
similar enough that I realized that I would have burned out on two if I had kept going through one, and playing one on my phone or like jury rig through my PC was definitely not an experience I was cool for. Um, it's it's just great. It's a party building game a la Pokemon or Digimon, and it's just really well put together, and the system works really well, and it looks great, and it's very charming. It's just fantastic. Um, the weirdest thing about it is, do you remember? You may not have seen this, Wooly, but like when Monster Hunter World came out, like it got like some Game of the Year things called it an RPG,
Didn't hear about it.
and yeah, they would be up in the running for like best RPG and like Monster Hunter World, and you're like, what? How? And now that it is an RPG, like it's literally a JRPG, I'm looking at it and it's like they really didn't change almost anything about the generalized structure of the game at all, other than the way that you fight things. So, you know how old classic Resident Evil and Resident Evil 4, the only difference is the camera,
Hmm.
whether or not it's pre-rendered and above
I
or
mean,
behind the back.
it gets a little more actiony, but
Yeah,
initially, yes.
and the controls for shooting, right? It kind of feels like that, where the loop of going out, finding monster, doing quest, get monster, do story quest to unlock thing, rank up a star, use the monster to make gear, combine items, etc. It's exactly the same.
Just instead of
It's the
skinning it and
it's
wearing
ex-
it, you're making it your friend.
no, you're still skinning and wearing them. You're just also stealing their children once you've done ransacking their corpse,
Oh,
so that you can indoctrinate them.
wait. So are you wearing the skin of the
Oh
parent
yeah, you're getting
while
the same gear
buddying
you
up with the
always would.
child?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
comfy. Good. I like
I'm your
that.
mama now.
Yeah. You smell the same.
Yeah.
Of course it's going to be your friend.
I have a shiny rock on my hand that makes you docile or some shit. But yeah, it's like
Cool.
the only thing that changed here is the art style a little bit, and it's instead of an action game, it's a JRPG, like turn-based battles.
Hmm.
Other than that, if you've played any existing Monster Hunter game, you know exactly what you are actually getting into, and that formula fucking rules. I love it. I think that game's great, and it gets to it rewards people like me who've been playing the series for forever.
Hmm.
And the one of the larger mechanics is being able to guess what the monster's going to do or what kind of type it would be, because you
So
want to.
I'm just thinking about what you're saying there, and one thing I really liked about playing World was, yeah,
Mhm.
it's the purity of the missions where you're walking into a boss arena and you've got a move set. That
Right.
represents the core of what I love in a lot of video games.
Mhm.
And then your mastery of that move set allows you to efficiently, dispatch the boss and take it out in whatever way you can. Um, When you restrict that to a sort of menu turn-based system, does that take away from the I guess not just the challenge, but I guess the variety of things? Because in a normal RPG, you're fighting a bunch of slimes and then some stronger enemies through a dungeon. Eventually, you get to a boss, and there's all kinds of little variety. Where your system is like complementing that because you might use different spells and different approaches to take on these RPG enemies. Of course, these monsters are going to have the unique approaches that would allow you to exploit their weakness, but the variety that goes into, you know, like the positioning and the ways you attack something in a regular Monster Hunter game, when translated to something turn-based, since that's the only thing you're fighting in the arena or the dungeon or whatever you're going into, is it limiting because it's just that one thing you're fighting?
No, not really. You keep a substantial amount of those moves. They're just spells. I'm using air quotes here on spells. Right. And the core of the Monster Hunter like action gameplay has always been about prediction, because everything takes so long. Even the fastest weapons have like a input and animation priority on them, and that core is still here. So there's a boss fight with a Rathian. You remember her, I'm sure.
Dodge the tail.
You get to see whether or not a monster's doing a regular attack in most of the time, and who it's pointed at, and adjust accordingly. And then Rathian pointed at my character, and no attack box came up, which meant that it's a skill. And I just, in my heart, knew, oh, that bitch is gonna hit me with the fucking backflip, and I'm gonna get poisoned. So I used my guard ability on my greatsword and mitigated it, and sure enough, here comes the backflip, and I got poisoned.
Okay.
It's taking the existing formula and just slowing it down and making it turn-based.
Because I'm also thinking about how, you know, Pokemon is a series of, like, you're fighting Pokemon. You know, but, like, they're still the same length and general speed of a random enemy over on the overworld, versus when you go into a gym and then you have to fight like a long 6 monster battle against a gym leader or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's more of a drawn out fight. Are the RPG versions of fights like about as long as the action fight versions in the original game would
so
be?
that's probably, if we use like Pokemon as its comparative example. Stories 2 does something interesting in that you get into many less overall random battles than you would in, say, a Pokemon.
I'm sure,
but
yeah.
individual random battles are way longer.
Okay.
They're way longer, and the idea is that you have to accommodate for... You ever see what a Zamtrios looks like, Woolie?
I mean, possibly.
No, you never seen that one? It's a big inflatable shark that uses ice moves.
Okay.
So when you first run into the Zamtrios, it uses technical moves, so you have to accordingly use power type stuff. And then if it gets its ice armor on, it starts using speed. And then if it becomes big Inflato Zamtrios, it starts using power. And you have to accommodate for each of those. And there is no way I would have been able to tell what each of those would have been during its initial phase. In addition to, as you go further in the game, you have to deal with breaking monster parts to either delete moves or increase their retreat rate or just decrease their HP or cancel out their moves by breaking apart in the middle of it. And I cannot stress strongly enough that it is the action combat of a World or a Rise literally just slowed down, and instead of having direct control, you're using a menu.
Yeah. I guess because I'm, again, I you know, I understand like how the change in flow like works here. Though I'm envisioning if you're going through a game where the flow, which I like in Monster Hunter, is pick the boss, go fight the boss, and that's it, right? You're not going through a level with I guess in World you can fight a bunch of little Jagras, and then you go fight the Great One, and then there's going to be like 2 or 3 other things on the map. But if that's not what this game is presenting you with, and it's kind of like sending you in a room with one thing, then that RPG menu system of like abilities and skills and stuff, and like you'd want that to be fairly complex. You'd want that to have a lot of variety to it, so that it's not just as something like FF1, attack, magic, item.
Yeah, the main thing that they do with that is monster skills, and then breeding the monsters to get better skills, and you can also switch between any of your weapons on the fly to accommodate for elemental weaknesses or like damage type weaknesses.
But your monster is still mostly fighting automatically.
Mostly, but if you can use what is essentially MP to tell it, hey, don't do that, do this instead.
Okay.
You're also usually fighting with a partner and their monster who are actually completely automatic.
Okay.
In a 4-person party system, you have 1.5 persons level of control.
Okay.
Which is about appropriate for an average hunt and monster hunter.
Because I could see it being a challenge to keep the variety interesting within that like change of a system, but if they did a good job of it, then that's pretty cool.
Yeah. The other thing is that like basically you remember expeditions from World, like just go out into the world and there's a bunch. That's the game's primary thing, where you have dungeons and you have the overworld and whatnot, and they're wandering around. Random dungeons will have random monsters, but the static ones, like I know exactly where to go fight a Tigrex now every single time I want to fight one, because he's always in that one spot if I want to go farm Tigrex shit. However, on top of that, what really surprised me is that at about 15 hours in, I fought my first human opponent, which is monster and person versus monster and person. There's a weird little caveat in that humans are not allowed to attack each other.
Okay.
Just not allowed. You're not allowed to do it. Can't do it. But once I won that duel, it unlocked versus multiplayer and co-op multiplayer, and the co-op multiplayer is go to the board, select a mission, load into somebody's like mission, do a hunt. You have 1 minute to gather the items you want after the hunt. Kicks you back to the lobby. It's functionally identical.
But you
like, I know I kind of sound like a...
You cannot fight another human, no matter what. This world
directly.
This world is for animal blood sports only.
That's correct.
Okay.
It's like literally exactly the same in every aspect other than its combat system. It's bizarre. I can't think of another game that does this. I can't think of like this is the equivalent of that Gwent mod for Witcher 3 that replaced all the game's combat with card battles.
Yeah, it's not like someone with a glaive spinning around fighting someone with a greatsword would look cool or anything. Who wants to see that?
Well, there's a million games you could play.
I know.
It's about the Monster Hunter's about monsters.
Yeah, I know.
People are pointing out Yakuza. Yeah, it's okay. The most direct comparison is Yakuza whatever to Yakuza 7. Everything's exactly the same in tone and structure. It's just how you hit the button to do the punch is different.
Right.
And as such, it's a great Monster Hunter game. Like, I'm absolutely in love with it. I think it's super.
Man. Fucking charge blade combos getting dodged because the gun lancer is mounting the enemy.
Woolie, I'm well aware.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's just the idea is just hit the ether.
What if it was a fighting game? Like
No, not even. Just PvP. But it's fine. It doesn't matter. That's not what it's about.
Oh, somebody just pointed out Persona 5 Strikers, if you played that, is also very similar.
Okay.
In fact, Persona 5 Strikers is the reverse.
turning it into an action game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So think of reverse P5 strikers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I get it. It's just that with Yakuza and with P5 strikers and with all the other examples we'd list, you still have a dungeon, grunts, mini boss, full boss. Whereas Monster Hunter is really interesting in that.
You still have that here.
Oh, so you're not just going on a thing where you're only fighting the monster you're hunting.
No. When I say a dungeon, I mean a dungeon.
Okay, see, that's kind of
They'll
my
give
entire
you a
premise
story
was wrong.
Quest that's like, they'll give you a story quest that says, "Hey man, there's a Paolumu fucking shit up," like you would get in any other Monster Hunter quest, right? The story quest.
Yes.
You go to the Paolumu dungeon, and there's stuff walking around that's not a Paolumu, but the Paolumu is the boss monster at the end of that dungeon.
Okay, then my entire premise was wrong.
An hour
then.
from now, the Paolumu will start to populate, and it will become a more regular enemy, so that you can acquire it.
I thought my whole thing was based on describing a mission where you select the monster and you just fight that, and that's the whole thing.
No, it's an open world JRPG.
No, I'm saying because when you made the comparison to Hunter, that's what I thought you meant. I thought you were describing.
No, yeah, okay. If this was a JRPG equivalent of picking missions from a menu, yeah, that would suck ass.
I thought because you said it's similar in structure. I thought you meant that pick the monster you're gonna hunt from the menu, and then you get put in the room and you go fight the monster.
You're writing
or in the area, you know.
In terms of overworld structure, it's Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where it has HM slaves, where I need to go get a chest here, so I'll bring Arzuros so he can break the rocks to get the thing in this mini dungeon because the rocks are behind it.
Yeah, all right, totally fine then, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The game's great. I mean, like, I can't rep it enough. You could watch my stream of it over at Pat Stares at on Twitch, but there's also like a insanely gigantic demo. The demo is like 4 to 6 hours long. It's fucking huge. And it's one of those demos that carries your shit forward.
Okay.
Like it's just the beginning of the game. So if anybody is in any way confused about the way I described it and sounds interested, yeah, just go play the demo. It's on the Switch and the PC on Steam. Though I would highly suggest getting the PC version, as the Switch version it's doing its best. It's trying real hard. It feels like a game made by people that thought there was going to be a more powerful Switch.
Oh no.
There's when you open up an egg, like, you know, the oh, what kind of monster is it? When you get the egg back, the game feels like it's gonna crash on the Switch. Like it's getting down to like sub 15 frames a second.
But OLED though, with an OLED screen.
Now we can see the shittier and shittier frame rate. With the OLED. Is it better or worse than that new Hyrule Warriors? I'd say it's better, but it's also because it's turn-based. There's no real action combat, so frame rate is, you know, it's not the end of the world.
Cool. All right.
I had a really bizarre moment playing that game the other night where I was grinding out a bunch of gear, and I was like, I'm tired of this one. I'll just hop on Rise on my PC, only to remember that no, Rise still isn't out for PC because of some Nintendo exclusivity thing. And I'll come to PC with their next expansion or whatever the fuck, and so got sad because I want to play Rise at 120 frames a second.
But if they put Rise on the PC, then that would be like giving up the rights to their monsters, and then everyone can see it, and that would be bad.
Well, I mean, Nintendo and them had like a deal for timed exclusivity.
But putting something on the PC is the same as giving up the rights to it.
It's the same as just giving it to thieves.
We're really yeah. Just we'll get there. Don't worry. It's sometimes
might
it's,
as well just
sometimes
might
it's
as
okay
well
to
just
dangle the carrot a little
cover
bit.
it in feces.
Yeah. I saw someone like, what the fuck are they talking about with the cutting? It's like, well, let's hey, listen along. We'll dangle the carrot a little bit. We'll get there.